Hey guys, Coach Kurt here with the Elvis Kelly Fight Team. I'm on again. I was just on yesterday with the Fight House Talks podcast, but it's just how things go. I'm trying to figure out my frequency and rotation between both podcasts. But anyways, so today I got Royce Ramos from Nomad Collie and Combat Fitness there in New York. We're going to be talking about politics and how to stay safe from it, and because this is a cyclical topic that comes up consistently in whatever scope of reality. And the Filipino martial arts is renowned for this. So here in a moment, I'll bring them on. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all the button stuff, do all the marketing, whatever. But yeah, drop in with your comments, join the conversation, and yeah, let's bring it up. What's up, brother Royce? How are you doing, man?
Yo, what's up? What's up? Hello, everybody. Good afternoon from where I'm at.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people already know who we are, but just for the sake of the audience who's going to catch us in the replay and those who are just new joining the show, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us the story of who you are, where you came from, and all the things.
Oh, alrighty. So I am Royce. I studied Pekiti-Tirsia College for the last 25 years, currently under Tuan Ramel Tortel, but I also train with Tuan Jared Rahongi as well. And I think they have great programs and have a lot to offer. So that's why I like to train and do both sides and be a bridge between both camps. Since I met them together under one roof, I have no bad blood between anybody. Part of the, staying away from the politics is just being, open-minded to all sides, and being willing to accept that there are differences in everywhere we go, and that's part of it. I started martial arts when I was real young, at 5.5 years old. I'm 47 now. I've been training martial arts for many years, and as someone of the shorter stature, growing up in the 80s and 90s in New York, being able to take care of yourself is a good idea, or it's not really much now, but back then, does play an effect, unfortunately, and from all different types. So not just one particular, if you know what I mean. Okay, so that's a game. I grew up making sure I know how to protect myself, stand up for myself, stand up for other people who can't stand up for themselves. And now I have my own school in West Nyack, New York, in the Palisades Center Mall, where I teach the next generation as well, young ones to adults. My youngest student has been 5.5. My oldest student's 81, and just how to protect yourself in daily life and be part of a strong community. That's it. And back to the topic of staying away from politics is developing a good, strong community.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big aspect of it.
So community. So we were talking offline about the anthropological approach to management of peoples, because it starts with the family unit, goes out with and expands out as society grows. Like you have the community size of the tribe leading out to the town and expanding further and further. Now that number of management is pretty small, but as we all know, you put 3 people together, you got politics. Put 2 people together, you got differences of opinions. So it is an inevitability for division to occur, but there is a grand possibility for people to unite underneath a single banner of whether it's a culture, whether it's a belief system, or better yet, a charter.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries.
So my source just came in. So no, I agree. As they say, it takes a tribe to raise a child, and the community builds in that way, shape, or form, and that's now expanded to the community. Well, it had expanded to a community. Now there's outside influences controlling the community in order to dictate how and why and what for people should raise their children, or children should be raised, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whether it's in school versus, at home and anywhere in between, the whole concept of sure, then what's in the nature is part of what's in the family and nurture, but then there's the external nurture from the outside influences such as school, such as, again, church, community, temple, etc. So, and as you were saying, there was politics, and anything becomes politics.
Yep.
When you have, like you said, two people just different opinions, three people become politics. So anytime there's an odd number and there's one side versus another, that's politics. And it's hard to avoid that.
Oh yeah.
Because now there's too many variables, right? So how do we avoid it? Now we could take what most people did was, or what I did for such a long time was just put on the blinders, right? I don't want to see it. I don't want to see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. But that in and of itself, and I admit, is actually very irresponsible on an individual level.
Yeah.
But when you're young, you don't know any better. But
right.
At some point in time, you got to grow up.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's the thing. Once you're involved in the thing, you participate in the thing, and then the thing gets involved with you, despite your goals and your ambitions to stay pure. Because it's just the inevitability of being involved in stuff. Is there's all that extra baggage that occurs.
Correct. And what is right, what is wrong. Some people take a more passive approach and only speak when it's truly necessary. Some people take a more progressive or aggressive approach and is extremely outright outspoken to the point where it's either belligerent without trying to be, but that's how it comes off, or be belligerent because that's how they want to be and because they're douchebags. There's extremes and then there's the subtleties.
Yep.
I've always been one to observe, make a decision how I want. I OODA loop it, so to say. We want to get all tactical about it. But you gotta, the same process. The OODA loop is a pattern of learning. So when you're in observation of what's going on, you make a decision and you act upon that decision. I want to fight against this right. I want to fight against this wrong. I want to dictate my thoughts. I say, what? Or I'm going to support those thoughts. We have to make a decision at some point in time of what we have to do. Now, politics is in the martial arts, is not an easy thing to stay out of.
No.
Especially if you put a good amount of time into it and you're part of certain groups and in certain circles, it's difficult.
Oh, leadership roles.
You get sucked in easily.
Especially if you're in leadership roles.
Leadership roles, yeah. Like, for, I started back in 97 in FMA in Pekiti, right? Late 97, so maybe early 98 if you want to get a full year into it, right? And when my friend started the school, Nomad, my friend started it. We trained together. That was in 2009, right? 2010, so on and so forth, moving forward. And the school, he turned it over to me in 2012.
Okay.
That's the timeline, so to say, right? And I was like, you know what? I should probably go out and learn, see if there's what else I'm missing
Mm-hmm.
You know, where am I incomplete? Where should I improve on? Right? You know, because my teacher warned, he warned me about, and he, you know, mentally prepared us in a sense, but warned us about what's been going on in PTK for,
Yeah.
he was there for a while, right? So I already understood all that. But, you know, I had to see what else I had to get more.
Yep.
So I did what any other self-respecting FMA guy does. We go to a Danny Santos seminar.
Mm-hmm. I've yet to do that.
And yeah, no, and don't get me wrong, I like Tuan Dan. You know, he's really cool. He's been very cordial to me. Been very nice. I would love to see him more often too. Every time I've met up with him and done his seminars, you know, I don't think he really remembers me, but he's always been nice.
Yeah.
And he's a great communicator, great teacher. Not a huge fan of the seminars, but I understand why he does the way he does.
Oh yeah.
And it's really for his students. But if you're good at the stuff that he's teaching, such as Wing Chun, such as Silat, such as Kali, such as Muay Thai, Lai Thai, you know, whatever else, you can follow, you can pick it up, you can, you know,
it's human movement.
I wasn't as good at it. Yeah, and the knowledge of what they're talking about, Paksal, Lapsal, whatever, or you know, Huba, Nuba, etc. You know, split entry, da 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 da. You know, I'm like, there was a lot. What for a couple of years, I did those seminars, and I was like, because I didn't know any other people or what's going on in the area, and you know, the social media wasn't really that prevalent with the material, that I didn't know any better. So I took a while to find who, and then okay, I was with him for a bit. Then I went to Doug Markitis, the first Doug Markitis seminar in Westchester.
Oh, nice.
And then I was told about Tuan Ramel's, and at the time I was told Tuan Mel, and I didn't know he went by Tuan Mel. I only knew him as Ramel. So I was like, who the hell is Tuan Mel? I never heard that in one. Then it's like, oh, now I get it. But you know, it was interesting because then shortly after I started training with Tuan Mel, that's when I started hearing, oh, he got excommunicated. Why are you training with him? He's a traitor, this, that, other thing. I'm like, you know, he don't trust him, don't believe in him, don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, but he trained with GT since he was 10. Okay.
Yep.
Huh? So I watched, I observed, I made my decisions who I wanted to be around, you know, and that's what I did. And I was happy. I'm happy with my decisions, but I'm not saying he's a be all end all or anybody else is a be all end all. I've openly gone to other people to meet, to talk to, with Tuan Apollo Ladra, Tuan Bobby also. You know, we talked about now Tuan Rob Pagan, you know, Tuan Bill McGrath, you know, though I haven't chatted with him since 2001, Tuan Tim Wade, you know, Tuan AK Baraka from those school days, you know, or I don't know, Mandala, I apologize, Agapito, which one it is, you know, you just kind of go by Guru because, you know, I don't blame him, you know, like, I just wanted to talk and meet. I want no foul, no nothing, just get to meet people, talk to people. Some people, like Tuan Philip Nigelinas, I've met him, he's been great, Tuan Dan again. And unfortunately, there's been some people out there that I've heard and received corroborating information that I don't openly seek them, but I kind of stay away from because not, you know, just because I don't want the bad juju, you know what I mean? You know, so you have to make a conscious decision and not act upon the political aspect of it. This side versus that side, this camp or that camp, this is the best way to hold a stick. No, this is the best way to hold a stick. F you. No, you know. So that's been my approach. And if I have to speak up, I will.
Yeah.
But as they say, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, I mean, it's the thing about it boils down to loyalty because you choose to engage in something. You're loyal to it to the degree of trusting that this information, that decision as to this is something you want to learn. It starts with wants and then it gets muddled into something that you need because as you get involved in stuff, you get more, especially when leadership comes about. When you become a leader, there's that time investment and that loyalty that is built up with that involvement. So that lends to a situation where, because your time and your loyalty, that it can become an issue of politics as particular to this conversation. But the fact is, as much as you get involved in stuff and you're in charge of stuff, it's inherently possible and inevitable that you are going to speak on behalf, and speak because you're loyal to that thing. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, it's not. Like you end up representing whether you intended to or not. Yes, I get it, and you know, and it's all good. Like one thing I've been very open from the get that my biggest primary goal in my school is to propagate and Filipino martial arts, Pekiti-Tirsia,
Mhm.
and that is to the family lineage.
Yep.
You know, my loyalty with GT got questioned because of weird things, because people suddenly came out because I was like, oh, you know, I'm gonna bring Tuan Mel and Agwan Dade, and we're gonna do something together, help them out, and raise funds back in 2020 or 2021 for his birthday, and I helped support GT because he can't fly out. And next, I was like, oh, you're being disrespectful, like, but I'm trying to be making money.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know, you don't know this, that. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know quite a bit. Just because that's the thing is when you stay quiet for so long, people don't know who you are.
Oh yeah,
Which
so
is
that other
fine.
one.
I'm fine with that too.
Or that's the other one too, is when you don't get involved in stuff, even though you've been participants in it for a long time, but when you're not publicly involved in things, publicly talking about stuff, people wonder, where's your loyalty? The fact is, you are allowed to have loyalty to the craft, the method, the style, but be apolitical. Because here's the thing: unless you're willing to go to war over this stuff, I mean, legitimately go to war where there's actual violence. I mean, this is a thing that you do unless you sign loyalty, such as a blood oath. I state your name, enlisted in something. Martial arts, in of itself, is still an activity that is not. It's not a kingdom. It's not a nation state.
Correct. Right.
It's not something that we go to
I agree
war.
with you.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
people make it.
absolutely. Totally
But,
agree with that. Yeah.
but people make it out to be because they want to belong to something. They are proud of this thing. They're proud of their accomplishments. They're proud of the people they're involved in. And on top of all that, there's a bit of hero worship, some confirmation bias, echo chambers, all these things. And that's where it becomes unhealthy. So,
Yeah. And, and the same people will spout all the aspects of the martial way and honor, loyalty, dedication, respect, and, blah, 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 blah. But then they don't adhere to the same things, because they're perfectly willing to cast the precepts aside because of ego.
Yep.
Because, whatever. My style is better than your style. My Tuan is better than your Tuan. My stick is bigger than your stick. I don't, whatever it is. And it's like, you know what? All right, that's the way you believe. Go ahead. But, you're free to have your opinion of things.
Yep.
I can't stop that. Right? But if you choose to spout one thing, but cast it away because you have certain misgivings of yourself, and you want to dictate that to other people and enforce your confirmation bias, your opinions, your whatever about things that most of it may not even is not even true. Slow your roll. You need to be busted back down to white belt. Again, start over again. You obviously did not study. Because a lot of people talk the talk, but don't walk the walk, right?
Yeah. Because again, leadership,
and
leadership is not just management of people. Leadership is not just competence in the particular field or skill or adherence to a curriculum. Leadership, a lot of it is sacrifice, because you're sacrificing one, your time, your effort. The other one too is you're sacrificing your ego. You're sacrificing that look at me aspect, look at what I all know because I am the guy. When the fact is you are a conduit of information. You're a conduit to history of this particular subject matter. But
sorry, go ahead.
No, but the big but about that is, as a leader, your job is not there to throw stones at other leaders. Leaders inspire. Leaders help create a healthy environment. Where it becomes tyrannical is when you're saying, hey, argue for me, or people on behalf of that person argue for them, when the fact is that individual, that organization doesn't even stand for those things. And this is that issue about people. People want to feel loyal, people want to belong, and people want to see value and then tie their own personal value and self-worth to that adherence, to that loyalty, and to that lineage. And I understand it, but it's hard.
It is. It really is. Yeah. It's not. So, leadership begins with you, right? With us, ourselves, with me, right? We have to remember that the order given has to be something I'm willing to do as well.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Right? No one wants to follow a leader that won't go through the fire with them.
Yep.
You know that as well as anybody else. Hey, Coach Dan.
Hey, Coach.
But like, I did a thing with Coach Dan. I like talking to, with Tuan Jack, PTI. I have no problem with PTI. I have no problem with PTKSMF. I have no problem with iCali. I got no problem with, PTKWF. I have no problem with PTTA, and all the other variations. If someone has a problem with me in any of those groups, that's on them, not me. Because, like, what did I do?
Well,
right?
The way,
so I'm willing to, that's the thing. I'm willing to go to these camps. I'm willing to do stuff with people. I'm willing to go. I've freaking flown to people, It's like, are you telling me that the money I spent to go to places, out of my own pocket, doesn't count for something? The money that I had to work hard to earn, to find my way, pay my way, make time, make effort, go this, go that, and buy my own food and get my own place to stay wherever I'm going, so I could be there and be there and train with you. That doesn't count for nothing.
Showing up should be enough.
Like I said,
showing up to a thing and participating in a thing in a healthy, positive way should be enough. But people want to make more out of it.
Yes. And, and again, hey, Alvin, what's up, bro?
What's up, man?
Haven't seen you since for a while. But yeah, what I'm going to do, some people just don't want to let it go. They want to make it more than it actually is.
Yeah.
So now we go back to how we stay out of it, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's like you can either choose to cut it off, ignore it, block it, but the problem is it's still going to be out there. So you still need to represent yourself at most and to the utmost, and be of higher character.
Because as a leader, you should be showing the character that you're trying to engender to your students and your subordinates. Because the culture that you create starts with you. So if you are a toxic individual and you engender and breed toxicity in your community and your culture, those beneath you, those who follow you, those who are loyal to you, are going to do the same. That's just inherently what happens. So again, that sacrificing your ego is important. Now, here's the thing I look at when it comes to loyalty to organizations, to styles. I equate the same analogy to being loyal to a particular food group, being loyal to pineapple on the pizza, being loyal to calzones over anything else. It's just, why do we have to be loyal to these things? We're allowed to like all of it. And on top of all that, what is that going to do for us? What is my loyalty to pineapple on the pizza going to do for me when I need it? Nothing. And the same with like martial arts and not just groups and organizations, but in the end all, the style. What is the style going to do for me when I espouse all this loyalty to it when it's an item that can't reciprocate that? Because it's a style, it's a thing. It's the people that make up the thing, but it's still the thing, doesn't do anything. I don't know. It's a weird circumstance that people put themselves into, having such loyalty to a style, a thing, but it also gets hijacked into a group, an organization.
Right. So, and correct, sir. Correct. We can, because, and especially in this day and age, ever since, like, we talk about MMA, we talk about JKD, we talk about Krav Maga, we talk about all these other groups that have merged different aspects together.
Yeah.
What happened to being my style is better than your style? What happened to my art's better than your art? One thing I learned about the early history of PTK was Segundo and his brothers in the early days of before PTK fully became PTK, was they were all given basically an assignment to travel outside throughout the Philippines, observe the other arts, and then come back and learn and learn something and teach it back, and that's how they developed. They learned about those things and also how to counter them, and they developed there and they put it together with what they already had and know. So, and we're seeing a lot now, like that post about the guy, who's like, his style has no name, but he moves really well. He used to, he's 80-something years old or 90-something years old, and that's a great post. I mean, that's the reality. There's a lot of, back in the day, there was no styles really.
Yeah.
This is my blade. This is how I move, and this is how I protect my family.
I would really like.
It has to be.
I would really like to see. This is purely hypothetical. I would really like to see like a neoclassicist argue with a post-industrialist about which style. I would like to see somebody who is an impressionist argue with a pointillist about style. Better yet, it's like Salvador Dali arguing with Van Gogh about style. This is like how ridiculous it gets to. But people who follow these things, they're loyal to it, they make it out to be more than like the original intent. And so how do we avoid it? It starts internally. What are we looking for? Are we looking for a tribe? Are we looking for a path of enlightenment? Are we looking for a means to get healthy? Are we looking for a thing that it's going to help me defend myself and my family? Am I looking for a cultural connection? Because that starts with that internal discussion and that honest discussion with ourselves of saying, hey, what is the reason why behind this? And also holding those boundaries as to, I know what I want out of this. There's my expectations. And when those are met, that's great. But as I get involved, I hold the boundaries of like, I will not participate in the garbage. I will not participate in the toxicity because that detracts from my initial goal of I want to learn the thing, do the thing. Because it's totally possible.
It is. So one thing that molded my approach, that's what I try to be, is like, I'm just gonna do the art. I'm gonna train. I'm gonna just try to be friends with everybody. That's obviously that's not a realistic goal, but I want to be friends or at least acquainted with and respect everybody to the best of my ability, or the ability or the willingness they will let me do that for them.
Yeah.
So, because of course it takes two to tango, right? So, but I grew up on the old school kung fu movies and
Yeah.
all this stuff,
Yeah.
like oh, and I, all that stuff was very impressionistic on me when I was little. It's the whole
yeah.
point of not letting go of the ego. Understand that that there's more to the art, and you shouldn't be completely stuck on that.
Yeah.
Things that have happened in the histories of martial art were what's the best way? Like when Kyokushin came out and how gee, why can I never remember names when I want to? Masuyama, right? How he just started going about because at first it was nothing. He was an expat. He was a Korean expat who, if I recall correctly, I'm slightly off. Who had to live in Japan and then was bullied, and then now he at some point in time developed and created Kyokushin.
Yep.
And it was very powerful. He went destroying dojos from the same dojos that destroyed him when he was nobody, just bullied him. Now he came back. Sometimes we reap what we sow. So, and it can come back to haunt us. So that's why do all that? Why, we could give rise to something like that, or we could all work together and make things better together.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and at least that's what I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I used to be a very negative person, so I try to look at, my teacher, Oliver, GT, Tuan Ramel, Tuan Jared. I look at all these guys and they've been great. Tuan Leslie, Tuan Nono, Polo, everybody. I have no ill will, bad blood, or wish anything negative on anybody.
Yeah.
I just want, like, the whole one tribe united. That's something that's not for me. That's just something, a dream. That's a dream I want. I want to see at least as close to it as possible. And I thought that we were doing pretty good over the past couple of years, but not, like we said before we started the podcast. The borders opened up, people can go around, and suddenly there's decay all of a sudden. And why is that? Why did a decay from what was already establishing friendships and bonds suddenly get thrown away after 2 or 3? Why do we throw it away just like that?
Because competition.
Someone gives some, it's competition. But
competition for money. Because like what this comes from is people want to prove their self-worth, and they attach their identity and their self-worth to a thing that they do. Because what you do is not who you are. Because being a martial artist can be something that you do. But again, one of the better quotes I've heard is that if it fits on a business card, that's what you do, not who you are. And it's a point of healthy mindset. So people want to prove what they do works against other people because, again, they have that self-confidence situation, that identity situation, and they just want to feel tested and improve that they are valuable and their time isn't wasted. And as a result of it, the thing that they do works, when that's not healthy. And to get more about mindfulness and emotionality and just good mental behavior health, when you hold on to all that toxicity internally, all that my self-doubt, which leads to hatred, which leads to being toxic towards other people, what that does is that eats you up on the inside, and it's not healthy for you. So being positive, being welcoming, almost reaching out to people and celebrating the diversity of these things, because that's the end all goal, is celebrate the diversity as a human condition. That's beautiful. It's how we break away from conflict, is that we look for the good, celebrate the good, hold accountable for the mess ups. But the fact is, what is the big picture in mind? The big picture in mind is we love the thing. We love Filipino martial arts. We should celebrate everybody's journey, their process, their adventure with it, and the joint global love for this thing. And that is a healthier big picture mindset. And it's totally possible to have that. It's just that starts with
It
the
is.
individual.
And I think there are some people that, even those who have had a bit of a, what's the best way to put it? They've had their own issues with groups
Mm-hmm.
per se.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we don't even know how they started or what happened,
Mm-hmm.
or we remember them incorrectly
Mm-hmm.
when the reality is it's not necessary,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like sometimes is the most common instigation or is based on a misunderstanding,
Mm-hmm.
but people don't want to admit when they're wrong,
Nope.
and that's where the game of humility comes into play.
Yep.
And some people, like I said, people like to talk about it. People like to say it and quote it, and you know, the 7 or 8 virtues of Bushido and blah 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 blah. But they can quote it to the T, but will not live by it.
Yep. Yep.
You know, and as the opposing individual or as a third party individual, it is up to us to either, like, I don't recommend picking sides.
Yeah.
I just recommend observing and finding a resolution within yourself to say, okay, I don't have to be a part of either side, and I can
Mm-hmm.
support either side.
Mm-hmm.
Is because that's also fine.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say, no, it has to be one. No, I don't belong to either camp, but I like what you do and I like what you do. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to pick between the two of you. You two got to figure it out. You two got to settle it.
You're allowed to have your own unique individual relationship with each person, despite the drama between said two people, because you as the third party have your own relationship with them, your own situation with them, your own boundaries and limitations with them socially and professionally. So
Correct. You know,
shouldn't we simply be individual ambassadors for whatever we do? Yeah, I agree, Coach
yeah,
Danny. That's great. Yeah, that's great. Yes, I agree.
yeah, and well, technically that's still also part of one's ego, but right, but there's nothing wrong with that. We're all allowed to have a little bit of ego for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves.
Oh, you need
And
ego
there's
because
nothing
that
wrong with
creates
that.
ambition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But at the same time, yeah, we should, you know, we represent us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't represent Coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't represent Tuahan. I don't represent. I, eh, I represent me and
Mm-hmm.
me, my school, etc. Now, do people see me as a representative of PTKWF? I can see so because I've climbed into a leadership role in that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can do people see me as a representative of PTTA? I can see that, but
Yeah.
at the same time, pardon, um, I represent me first and foremost.
Yes.
I have respect for both sides and both instructors and any instructor I've ever trained with and met. I've shaken hands, um, shared a drink, shared a meal with. That's all I care. I've been traveling all around for the past couple of years, up and down, inside and out of the U.S., Europe, and
Mm-hmm.
Asia right now, and the Philippines. Okay, I would like to think that my actions have spoken loud enough that I just want to train
Mm-hmm.
and train with good people
Mm-hmm.
and train the art
Mm-hmm.
and improve within the art and build the community.
Yep.
Which community? The PTK community. No PTK blah 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 blah. No. PTK. The first 3 letters.
Yep.
That's the art.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because of GT? No, because PTK, GT is a big part of it. 2-1 now is a big part of it. all these guys are a big part of it. Yes, absolutely. But there shouldn't have to be all this negative stuff,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And Ray, look how much divisions happened over the years
yeah,
in
because
FMA between the princess and even the Canetes and Ilustrismo had its issues. Balintawak has had its issues.
well,
Pick them.
what's interesting about this as a individual ambassador, parroting off of Coach Danny, before you hand out the business card, before anybody recognizes the team shirt, the gang colors, whatever, you as the individual ambassador to a complete stranger, they're going to meet you, meet your character, meet your own personality before you bring up your system, your style, who you represent, what you represent. Because again, it starts with you. The other stuff comes later as you build that relationship with that individual stranger. Now, what's interesting about groups and organizations and loyalty is, are we being loyal to the system or the head of the system, the leadership? Because when it becomes like loyalty to the person, this ends up being like a cult of personality situation versus the loyal to the system or the curriculum. And again, I tie that loyalty to a curriculum is once again loyalty to pineapple pizza. What is the curriculum going to bring to you in this social contract, this social exchange? The answer is
Yeah.
nothing.
Right, especially in this day and age. Well, especially with FMA being the way it is, and the concept of curriculum is almost
Yeah,
non-existent. Look
yeah.
at everybody. Everybody taught it in how many variations and ways, and we all have developed our own curriculums in some way, shape,
hmm
or form, or or adapted to something or another, or added on, or detracted, or whatever the
hmm
situation may be. And is that wrong? No. So, and I find that one of the biggest things, like I akin the system or a system to the the primary protocols and precepts that it gives off. It
hmm
stands for, right? You know, and there's a lot of aspects to Pekiti or Kali, so Trisimo or Balintawak or whatever.
hmm
They all have their things that they're you know their that body of elements that is PTK, that is Balintawak, that is
hmm
Doce Paris, that is yada yada yada, right?
Yeah.
And yes, there's going to be overlap because every FMA is FMA, right?
hmm
But I stayed loyal to this art because of the way it was presented to me, and this is what I like about it. And everybody I see do it
hmm
is a great art. Do I have now loyalties to the leadership, right? Yes, we're going to have loyalties to leaders, you know, to some degree, because they're our teachers, I should say, because
hmm
they're the people that taught us, that trained us. I have loyalty to my teacher because he's never taught, he mistreated us or taught us badly. He's always been there for us and done stuff. You know, Mandela Virgil, I still can, I can text him, call him anytime. I can knock on the door and say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
We live that close to each other, right? Same thing with Tony Ramel. Anyone who's ever treated me properly, give respect to get respect, right? They
Yeah.
give me respect, I give back respect, and vice versa. If I meet you, I give respect. I hope for respect back. If I get only superficial respect, but then I hear stuff afterwards, that's a little sad. It's upsetting
Yeah.
because I've heard that, I've had that before. I'm like, why does it have to be that way?
Oh yeah.
I ain't talking about you. I ain't talking smack about anybody. I just want to train.
Well, I mean, have
You
that
know?
equivalent exchange of respect, professionalism, and kindness and empathy. I mean, that's what a friend does. They show up. They show up and hold you accountable when you screw up. They also show up when you need them, and you have that mutual exchange where it becomes like a toxic uh, issue is when you show up and give so much more and you don't receive, or you expect to receive more than what you're giving, or because you're giving so much of yourself and the other individual doesn't acknowledge it, doesn't see it, or doesn't even match it to the same level of your emotional contact. It's very much like when you're into a woman or into another human being on an emotional standpoint, like a social sexual relationship, and they are really not into you as much as you're into them. Now, here's the other question I run into. Can you be loyal to a person that you've never met? Can you be loyal to I'm going to say martial arts because this is particular to martial arts. Can you be loyal to a martial arts founder or instructor that you've never met?
Honestly, I don't see how.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree,
I agree.
Coach Danny. Yeah, you can respect them, but it's not loyalty.
Agreed.
Because loyalty is part of a relationship. It's two ways. I gave loyalty to somebody because of because of what they've given me, right? So my teacher has given me X, and Y, and all these material, and cared for. We've laughed and trained and got hurt with each other and trained in the rain, or whatever it is. We make fun of each other, and at the end of the day, we eat together, drink together, be merry, right? That is bonding. That is why loyalty is important. Bond and loyalty are attributed together.
Yep. Familiarity.
Right? You would be loyal to your team because of the bond you created. Otherwise, you go on an op, things go south fast, right?
Okay.
So that's why you have your platoon, your team, you guys, that's the bond that no one can ever break or shake, right? The same concept. You can't do that when you've never met them. It's impossible.
So again, furtherly on, if you're unable to be loyal to a person that you've never met, I want to use Bruce Lee because Bruce Lee gets so misused for so many different things.
Oh, God,
how does a modern practitioner of Jeet Kune Do be loyal to Bruce Lee after he has passed? Is it possible?
No, they could be loyal to the concepts.
Okay.
They want to adhere to them. But the problem with that, specifically with Bruce, we'll see for Bruce, is that he created art that was specific, or not, he didn't create an art. He created a methodology. Because for all intents and purposes, JKD is a methodology. It's not an art. It's free flow, and you can take whatever works and discard the rest, right? Technically, that's also a thing in Filipino martial arts too, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But the reality is, you can't even be purely, truly adherent to that. It's to everything that's taught in the JKD, the Wing Chun, Panantukian, all that stuff, right? Because the methodology that he created was designed to adapt and evolve. Right?
Again, this goes back to the thing of having an equivalent exchange between two individuals on a social contract, because if the person that you're worshiping and that you're loyal to isn't even there, that they're past and gone, I mean, there is no exchange there because it stops because it's just one-sided.
Right.
Now, this is a good point. Many people conflate loyalty with exclusivity. That is correct. You have to understand your individual connection to that individual, because everybody's social relationships, social contracts are unique to them and that other person. But having clear understanding of what that relationship is important. Because again, people can misunderstand. Going back to that analogy of being into another individual romantically, they may not be back into you as much as you think they are, or as much as you want them to be, or as much as you are invested in them, because there's no clear communication of boundaries or the definition of that relationship.
And also think about it. Also, another aspect that we people don't think about, right? To in a relationship between two people, whether it's romantic or business or whatever,
Mhm.
right? One side thinks they're giving 50% of themselves, the other side thinks they're giving 50% of themselves, but in observation, perception, your 50% is more like my 20%,
Mhm.
or my 50% is more like your 10%.
Mhm.
And then that creates friction because it's like what the hell, and because again, like you said, there's no communication.
Yep.
There needs to be what is expected of each other, whether it's romantic or business. Something has to be set up, or teacher to student.
Mhm.
Uh, now, see, now that's where, and then from a teacher and student aspect, or guide to guide ed,
Mhm.
it can never be a truly 50-50 or 100-100 or whatever it is. There
Mhm.
is, I have, this is what is expected of me to bring you and build you up. And it has
Mhm.
to start with these levels. That's one thing. But it's people are supposed to be on a mutual level, right?
Mhm.
I talked about it with my guys, right? When we split up sparring, I'm sure you've done this where, okay, you're gonna have everybody's gonna be the same size, but then when you split them up and go big versus small kind of thing,
Mhm.
you can't say, okay, go 50%, because someone who weighs 250 pounds going 50% against someone who weighs 110 pounds soaking wet,
Yep.
you know, his or her 50% is more like big dude's 12%. It don't make
Mhm.
sense,
Mhm.
right? So there has to be an understanding. So, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. You have to adjust your level to this person's level.
Mhm.
Now you learn, no, but that's now a lesson.
Mhm.
But again, that needs to be done because in a relationship where two people are supposed to be equal partners,
Mhm.
but things are not being communicated accordingly,
Mhm.
that's what's going to create the topsy turbulence. That's what's going to cause the turbulence. And you know,
And when it comes
what
back to organizations, organizations are made up of people. Systems are inert. They're not active. There is, again, reliant upon people, because and it has no the system has no emotional interaction or buy-in to its people, because it just doesn't.
right,
It doesn't have that cognitive ability, because it's not alive. So
right,
when it comes to this loyalty to a system and organizations, where people conflate the two often, is it loyalty to the system or to the organization? Because without the system there is no organization. Without the people there is none of that. But because of the people, there creates conflict on behalf of the organization, trying to prove the system's worth to another system. It's just, people are messy, people are complicated, and that's okay. But
yeah,
it starts at the individual level of saying, hey, I'm going to be a healthy individual and hold my boundaries, my expectations. Uh, but unfortunately, a lot of people who come into martial arts come in from a basis of trauma, and they come from a basis where they want to belong to something. And with that, there is, again, I keep coming back to mental health because, like, again, it is my thing. Martial arts and mental health. There's an interesting study there, and again, about tribal association, connection, and trauma, because one, people get punched in the face for fun. I mean, they're a little wired wrong anyways.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there's that can be argued. But or that they, for a lot of people who come into martial arts from a traumatic background, they don't have the foundation of good social skills or positive social skills to understand how to create these boundaries, how to understand these different levels of social contract and exchange, to understand these healthy relationships. Because if they weren't modeled and taught that as a child and developing human, how are they possibly going to have that when it comes to a professional organization? Because this is the organization or the system's job to raise that person to become a good human being, to become a positive person in the environment. The answer is no, because the organization is not their daddy. The organization isn't their parents. They can help
correct.
reinforce and uh, and help like I said, they can help reinforce some of those positive social norms, the positive culture. But it's not the society or the system's job to turn that person coming in into this beautiful human being.
A good person or whatever.
Yeah, it's not its job.
It's not its job, but and this is tough. And like you said,
Mhm.
if you're committed and loyal, there is no percentage. Yes, you're either committed or you're not. Agreed. So how can you be loyal to an individual, instructor, or system style?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. It's and that's the thing. You can be committed to an individual. You can be loyal to an individual style, right? Um, like I said, I'm committed to like the precepts, the concepts, the programming and everything that the idealism of an art, right? Of the art I've chosen, right?
Yep.
But that's as far as that goes. I'm not gonna freaking die on a sword for it.
Yep.
But it's tough because it's like computers, right? The operating system, whether you use Apple or you use IBM or Google, whatever it is now, right? Or PC, right? They don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And you really don't care who they are. Because the computer goes down, don't like it, whatever it is, you're going to buy a replacement, you're going to pick something else, and it's not going to be the same, it's going to be different. Yeah, there are people like, oh, I only buy Apple, or I only buy PC, or I only buy Google. All right, fine. All right. Why? Because they have their preferences.
Yep. Because you're buying a product. You're buying a product and paying for a service.
Mm-hmm.
And the loyalty from that product and service is intrinsic upon your continuation of that currency exchange.
Right. And the perceived value that you have of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. The system of PTK, not the, and for me at least, everybody else is different, right? For me, the system of PTK that I've learned of, I am loyal to that, and I try to adhere to those teachings as best as I can, and that's fine. But again, it's not like PTK is the only way. Screw all systems. Everybody bow down, or else I kill you all, kind of thing. No, nothing like that. But the system itself does absolutely nothing if you leave it there. My laptop does not work if I just let it sit there. It's turned off. It does nothing. All right. So the same thing. My firearm, right? It is not going to stand up and shoot nobody if I don't pick it up and carry it, right? It's gonna, if it sits in its case, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to self-load and shoot when the clip is, or the magazine is nowhere near it.
Yep.
Right. My knife is not going to jump out of its sheath and stab people randomly.
Nope.
Right. This, whatever it is only going to be there and be of value when we need it to be. Right. Now, we kind of moved around quite a bit, but how do we be loyal to a person we've never met? Well, you can't. You just can't. And especially if they're dead, what are they going to do? Now we can be loyal to the person who's trained us. We can love them. We love them and that's another factor. Part of loyalty is love.
Yep.
You can't love someone you've never met, unless you got certain issues. But you know, you can't love someone you've never met.
No.
That you can be infatuated with concepts and precepts and personalities and this. That's not love. Love is built on something that we've shared amongst each other.
There are those who think, Train with someone else, you're disloyal if you train a different system. Yeah, because again,
I'm with you on that, Coach.
the individual journey of your martial arts career, your whatever, your individual journey is your own. At the end, and I look at this from a metaphysical, pseudo spiritual standpoint. When at the end of your life, when you're standing in front of whom and whatever, and they ask you the sum total of what is your life and your experiences, it's unique to you. Because my life is different than your life. My experiences are different than yours. And it is
Correct.
okay because that is our path, because free will. Because here's the other one too about loyalty, or I should say artificially created loyalty, whether we surrender our free will and our agency to an individual, a system, an organization outside of having an oath written by contract, such as an enlistment, where you actually are not an indentured servant in a lot of ways. But again, a lot of people give away their agency to a thing that doesn't necessarily need it, want it, or deserve of it. Because in the end all, your personal journey is contingent upon your free agency. And in the end all goal is your experiences and expectations. Because again, as people want to belong to something, they give up their free will because they want to belong to it and be loyal with this expectation that it's going to be loyal back to them.
Right. And, unfortunately, that's where you get the concept of drinking the Kool-Aid. Some
Yeah,
people fall for something that makes them feel good, whether it's drugs or mental manipulation.
Yeah. So are we
We
confusing?
confusing loyalty is strong feeling of support, allegiance with fidelity, faithfulness to a person or organization. When folks
I
get
mean, it's
butthurt
a
over
varied
something.
thing because this is a difficult topic to cover because the various interpretations of loyalty, so there is the technical definition of loyalty, and then there's the intrinsic individual definition of loyalty. Just like anything else in our language system, we have the agreed upon, like it's a linguistic definition, but there's the intrinsic social definition that is unique to us. And this is actually where I think a lot of the problems come from, is that people's misunderstanding with themselves as to what they believe versus what is by definition, by agreed upon social definition, and or better yet, technical definition.
No problem, Ken. But the thing is, like, loyalty and fidelity also, it's by and of themselves are considered synonymous with each other, right? Taekwondo, one of the first 3 precepts of my 10 commandments in Taekwondo would be loyal to your country, be loving, show fidelity to your parents, be respectful to your elders, and be faithful to your friends. It's a whole bunch, but loyalty, fidelity, faithfulness were bam right there, and variations of those words strewn throughout the 10. Right?
Yeah.
They're synonymous. They're hand in hand, because like you said, you can be loyal, and part of loyalty is being faithful to that or which you are or who you are loyal to. So like I was saying, I am loyal to the precepts and concepts and elements of PTK. So I adhere to and try to be as faithful to that teaching as much as possible. Then there's the loyalty and fidelity I have due to friendships earned within the system to individuals. But the individual is not the system is not the individual. And what the big conflation is when people assign that value altogether.
Yep.
One is the other and the other is the other.
Yep.
And that's where things get very, very, very tricky and murky.
Yeah, because technical definitions are black and white. 2 + 2 = 4. Okay. But people's interpretation, people's application, and people's understanding makes things messy, and it becomes degrees of gray. And this is inherently, yeah, go ahead.
Or you can say it's fact versus truth. It's fact versus truth. The fact is this: hard fact is fact. It's undeniable,
Mhm.
right? Truth is subjective. Because
Yes.
truth is subjected to one's perception,
Yes.
and that's what that is.
Mhm.
And that's what people don't seem to get.
Mhm.
Oh, I this is the truth. This is truth. Whose truth? Whose truth? Your truth? My truth? GT's truth? Romel's truth?
Mhm.
You know, you know, that freaking Bruce Lee's truth? Whose truth?
Yeah.
Using that, that term truth. And like you said, there's this whole mishmash conflation of definition that the hard the hard definition versus, for lack of a better term, a soft definition.
Mhm.
It's no, the definition is the definition.
Yep. Now,
Why
what's
are we
interesting
why are
about
we twisting it? But
because people are messy and
yeah,
people misunderstand things because they just do. Now, going back to like
they're
what
uneducated.
yeah, what Coach Danny was saying about being loyal to like this misunderstanding about you're disloyal because you go do different stuff. Okay, unless there is again a contract, like a specific contract that you are under contract and oath to do this thing because there is an exchange of currency. I mean, you are free to do what you want now because if you have like
Right.
if you're obligated because of legal standing to follow underneath the guidelines, the precepts of the organization, yeah, that makes sense. But you as a participant who is paying to be part of this thing that has no contract of saying, hey, you're responsible for representation of this because there's a business engagement here. Those are two different things. And people
Agreed. Yeah.
misunderstand those two different definitions because they believe it's both when the fact is it's
No.
not.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, agree. Coach Danny,
Yes.
I agree with you.
Except for when they go sign that contract with the company or corporation they want,
Mm-hmm.
and it's either, well, you either accept this or you don't get the job.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna make certain changes. Some people just don't realize, don't get that.
What I would like to know,
Um,
okay, what I would like to see, and I may never get this answer or data, but I would like to know is how many how many Filipino martial artists have actually signed physical business contracts to be loyal to the organization and the organizational leader, because
see, I know I haven't, not a single one to any one of those of my instructors,
okay,
nor would I.
yep,
Why should I let that piece of paper dictate who and what I should be? Because then I'll be miserable.
mm-hmm,
If I don't get what I'm expecting from it, but I'm told I have to do this, and that in order to get it, and if I do and I still don't get it, what's going to happen?
yep, because I mean,
I
unless you're a
have to seek
franchise,
outside.
yeah, unless
Yeah,
you're a franchise owned by the organization, you're free to do what you want as long as there isn't a signed contract. Now, there is this like social contract of as a representative because you have leadership and time invested into a thing that you're intrinsically a representative of a system, but when it comes down to it, unless you sign a contract for business, you're still free to do what you want. And even after you sign a contract, you're still free to do what you want. Freedom
right.
is not me freedom of choice, freedom of expression, agency does not mean you're free from consequences, however. And that's also another part that
True.
people misunderstand.
Right. Now, again, in regards, especially with legality speaking, especially things set forth in a legal binding document,
Mm-hmm.
all right, that is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Very dangerous. That's why I could never subscribe to that.
Mm-hmm.
On an individual level, granted, how many people still adhere to the my word is my bond, a firm, solid, firm handshake, and I'm going to commit to you and do what
Mm-hmm.
I can because I like who you are, I like what you do, etc., etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I get, I that's who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and anyone's ever trained with me knows that. At least I hope that's the way they felt,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't, but some people, even if they do shake that hand and look you in the eye and give a nod and be your dude for like a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and somehow still flip on you, which is that's on them. And
Yeah.
so you can't. And again, that and then we'll go back again with that whole concept of of the loyalty to one another. You know, you know, do we feed into that cycle, or do I say, all right, fine, I cut you off, I'm done.
Yeah.
Let it be. Let them be the destroyer of their own selves, and let them be seen by other people as that. And the problem is, those same people could still attract followers who believe in what they say about you, even though that's not what happened, as we've seen in a lot of the things that we've been seeing over the past how many years now.
Yeah.
You know, that's not happening, right? I remember this thing happened, and I won't say particularly in what post or whatever, but it was something about Ramel. And I had to say something only because I knew the truth. I knew the fact.
Yeah.
And when they asked me how did I know and who am I said, well, I'm the person who picked them up. And the very first thing he said to me when I picked them up was, I need to find a gift for my daughter. Can you take me to some place? I said, sure thing, sir, not a problem. And you see later on, oh, he doesn't care about his daughter. No, that's not true. How would you know? Because the very first thing that he said when I went to pick him up was, can we go some places to pick some gifts out for my daughter? Yes, sir. Not, hello, how are you doing? Actually, correction. It was after, hello, how are you doing? It was, but it was, how was your day or anything? After that, it was, can we do this? And then I proceeded to drive him an hour and a half to where I am and go shopping with him.
Well,
Pick stuff out for my daughter at the time.
Priorities. Yeah, if you're part of an organization, there is an expectation that you will follow the curriculum, be representative of the curriculum, because if you're part of the organization in name only, then it's that issue. If you're not doing it, then what are you doing? So I don't know. That's the way I interpret it.
Well, you're like, if you are part of an organization and you have a certain code of ethics and rules and regulations, and you sign onto that, you should adhere to them.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
was your conscious decision. That's your conscious decision. And to change it up because you don't like it, because it's inconvenient to you at the time you decided it's inconvenient. And why is it inconvenient? How did it all of a sudden become inconvenient? You're perfectly fine doing it before. Now it's inconvenient when nothing's changed except you. That's on you. That's on the individual. And like, World Federation has a code of ethics. PTT has a code of ethics. I try to follow that and adhere to them.
Yeah.
Because I made a conscious obligation to do so.
That was a social contract. You want to belong to a thing, adhere to the social contract, as it is with any community, because again, that's how our society is built upon, is social contracts. We agree upon not stealing from each other, not murdering each other, not being disloyal to our spouses, not doing all these things that would break apart the harmonious bond of a community group. And that grows out to whatever organization and institution, but it always starts with, again, the human social contract. Because the overall is, how do you have a social contract with an inert item? How do I have a social contract with pineapple pizza? I can't.
Listen, you and your damn pineapple pizza, man.
I mean, I've been on this kick for a while because, that's a hill I'm welcome to die on.
I'm cool with my pineapple. I'm cool with my pizza. I just not for me, but I don't hate you for it.
That's fair. See, point being, we can both like something. We can both have an opinion on a thing, but not have a problem with it.
Right.
Because ultimately, the thing doesn't care.
Right. And and that's just it. We shouldn't. I guess I'm just not. I like to stick to that childhood naivete that this, on what I grew up on,
Mm-hmm.
you know, doing the right thing, all about the martial arts and, the rule, the precepts, the virtues, freaking Saturday morning cartoons and G.I. Joe, knowing half the battle,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how did it go from all this to like, everything's great. Oh, you belong to that camp? Well, F you, there's this or this or that. Yeah, but I've never seen you there. How do you know this? How do you know that? Oh, I just do. So people tell me this all the time. Okay, where's your proof?
Mm-hmm.
I need the facts. I'm not going by hearsay. Oh, they suck. Okay, you know, is it can't be that way.
Yeah. For me, I have an expectation, and call it naive, but I have an expectation because I expect people to hold me to this. Is that I have an expectation that people will be functional, professional, positive individuals because I want to present that and be that because I want that in return. Against the don't say anything unless you're going to say something nice. Don't do the things that it's going to
Right.
cause harm. I have this expectation of these boundaries that I'm going to show up and be positive, professional, nice, empathetic because I want that in return. Now, where
Correct.
that
Treat unto others as
naivete
you'd have them treat you.
exactly where that naivete kind of gets crashed on us on in a lot of cases is despite all my intentions, my wants, my desires, people are messy. People have their own say. And again, like when it comes to combat and violence, despite all your preparation, despite all the things you want to do, drill and train, the enemy and the universe has a say in it as well. So just the same with the social contracts, despite what I want, despite what I expect, the universe and the other individual have a say in the situation.
Agreed.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Hold yourself accountable.
Yeah,
Hold yourself accountable.
that was actually in the beginning of we were talking about, Coach.
Yeah.
You gotta have personal accountability. You gotta have humility.
Yeah.
Well, that's the reality. Otherwise, you know what? Not that we can't. It's not that we can't or won't go far, whether we do so or not, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you don't join up, someone else will, and we're gonna make something happen. Blah blah blah. Right?
Yeah.
But you have to realize this. You have to understand, or I have to understand it. I have to realize that even if I did do that,
Yeah.
it's just right. Am I going to become a hypocrite by I'm going to ignore everything else and teach the same stuff, but not adhere to the stuff I just broke or went against? Now I'm a hypocrite. I have no accountability for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do this, and this is something that needs to be discussed and developed in the people. Because in another aspect, as we talked about, instructors versus teachers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're called drill instructors, not drill teachers, right? We need, at some point in level, besides instructions, we have to give more than that.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional content, so to say.
Yeah.
We need to give a little bit more within the instructions. Thus, it truly becomes teaching. It becomes more value than it had, right? Because there's the inherent nature, not the intrinsic, but the inherent nature of the martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
fighting capability. These are things that you're gonna learn, but then there's also understanding responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
use, doing the right thing. Whether it's the virtues or precepts or dictates or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we have to abide by them in some way, shape, or form. I mean, that's what makes us superior as creatures on this earth, right?
Yeah. Now, the thing about
And
instructors and teachers can be mentors when they add that emotional content. However, instructors and teachers, by charter are they convey information. They're instructional. They're procedural. They don't have the time in a lot of cases to have that individual relationship on a deeper personal level with 100 students. You can maybe have it with a handful, be a mentor to them, but by volume is literally impossible. So, like in the case of when I was in the army, my battalion commander knew majority of 1,000 troops beneath him, but he only had personal relationships with a handful of them. Same with my CSM. Now, with my platoon of like 56 dudes, yeah, our platoon sergeant had a really good connection to a point at a level with the subordinates of the troop. But did he have like a deep individual relationship with every single one of them? No, it was in levels and different per person. But where you really got that sense of true sense of not loyalty, but understanding of that emotional connection, that mentorship was at the team level between your 3 to 5 guys. I mean, if you look at team sports, it's less than 12 people on the field because that's really how many people you can really manage when it comes to uh, emotional content, history, connection, depth of relationship. Because I'm going to put it like this, like growing up in a big family, and I've seen this in large families, like when you got 12 kids, you have two parents with 12 kids. How do you'll have an individual relationship with each, but like how deep are you going to have with each? And that varies based upon
Right.
each individual.
Yeah, because you can only spread your attention so much.
Yeah. So in
Right.
the,
You're
so
right.
so in the case of loyalty to a student as participant in an organization, how loyal can the organization be to the student and address that? The answer is not very much because there's
No.
so many by volume. And the same with that, the head of the organization. How can they have a deep understanding of a relationship with all thousands of their participants in that organization? By volume, it's literally impossible. The attempt is to do so, but people need to understand that it's very unlikely, and that familiarity comes from time and experience spent with that individual. Because, like in the case of GT, there are some people that have spent a lot of time with GT. He's got family members, obviously, have spent a lot of time with GT. And then you have other people who have spent zero time, like myself, with GT, and so I have an appreciation for GT. I have an appreciation for his system, his style, and his methodology, but I don't have like that human connection to create that loyalty, so to speak, with him. Because
Right.
there is no human connection. Now, if I had spent more time with him, maybe. But at level, I understand that because I'm a complete stranger to him and my exchange of connection to him is zero, that there is no real relationship there. So again, goes back to that whole thing about politics and loyalty. How do I be loyal to a thing that doesn't even know I exist? And better yet, why am I creating a circumstance that causes drama amongst different organizations that the organizations don't even know I exist, let alone care? And that's the
Right.
bigger problem that we run into in the wider scope of activities, not just martial arts.
You know, it's such it's. I don't think it's a slippery slope, but I do think it is. The one aspect, it is a difficult thing to deal with, but
Hmm.
let's take a few things, right? For instance, such as you go into the military and choosing loyalty to the country, to America. You know, we can again. Why did we as individuals who adhere to the Pledge of Allegiance, adhere to showing loyalty to this country, loving this country, there's so much that we do for all its flaws and everything. It's still a great country, right? You
Hmm.
know, and if you've been to other countries, you know, you've seen firsthand, and same here. So we know the 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 potential that this country has, even though some things have kind of waned, it's still a fantastic country, right? Could it be better? Yes. Can we improve it? Absolutely.
Hmm.
But again, what does the country do for us, right? It's a land and a flag right now, basically, and a
Hmm.
document, correct?
It's
The
a
land and the
belief.
flag and the document. Also,
It's a belief. People
Right,
have
it's
a
a belief.
belief and they buy into the belief. That's what it is. And just in the same when it comes to a martial arts organization, a group, a leader is that the belief of buy-in. They buy into what they perceive is good, so what they believe that they want to be part of. They have this buy-in that if I show up and give my time, my effort, my money, that I will receive a certain level of response, loyalty, acceptance, these things. But unless it's clearly communicated, because it varies person to person, but again, if it's clearly communicated, you'll know what's going to happen. But what gets
Right.
messy about it is the people part within the organization,
Yes.
because
And
the value,
as we said, people are messy.
yeah, and the value system that we attach to it again is varies based upon the interpretation. So, I mean, this going back to American politics, we have a beautiful document is our Declaration of Independence and our Bill of Rights. It's a beautiful, beautiful document,
Yes.
but it's so up for interpretation because of people. People make things complicated. And so the buy-in is that the
Yes.
Constitution and the Bill of Rights will protect me as an individual, but where it gets messy is the people trying to interpret said document. So, and that's the same with, again, organizations in martial arts. We have
Right.
beautiful martial arts systems, beautiful organizations, but people complicate it. And
That's what I'm
and it's
getting
just
at
it's an inherent
with
thing with what we have to deal with. So now, what I think
yeah.
from a very basic level is it starts with family. When a person has positive modeling of what it is to be a functional, positive human being, that right there will express outward into the things that they get involved with. Because if you're wired wrong from the home, you're gonna have a difficult time being involved with social relationships, social organizations. So
Oh, that's a very important aspect. And we don't nation the power of the standing power of the speech power.
yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah. And like you said, it does start at home. And this is why it's important that our family. This is a whole other topic, but
Hmm.
our family structure. We have to be adherent to maintaining and perpetuating strong moral character within those that surround us,
Hmm.
especially with our children, right? The next generation. The problem is, and I get it, if you want to talk about certain things, but the education starts at home,
Hmm.
right? No matter what happens at school, as parents, we have to we have an obligation to raise a child right.
Hmm.
They don't know their right from their left, for crying out loud,
Yep.
right? They need to be guided and taught,
Hmm.
and this is the most important aspect. Otherwise, and of course, it's difficult when you're talking about single parent households or broken households, right? So so like you said, these people who are from those kinds of backgrounds, they seek
Hmm.
these organizations or groups out because of trauma and finding acceptance. But then in doing so, then if that's what happens, as instructors, as teachers, as guides, as gabais, as Tuahans and Mandalas and Agolans and masters and grandmasters and Shidoshis and whatnots and Kiyoshis, we have to impart that value and be a little stricter in regards to that character and in maintaining that. It
Yeah.
becomes a re-education for some, right?
But
But
in counterpoint, it is not the job of the organization, the style, the instructor, the teacher to raise
to raise the children,
the
yeah,
children, because the job
no, it's not.
is to teach the subject matter, to have that currency
Mm,
exchange of product and services. And
yes, sir.
again, this is that part of when people have this broken sense of self and they want to belong into something, that they will misunderstand and conflate um, the relationship. We keep coming back to this, but they'll misunderstand and conflate the relationship between they and the organization, they and their teacher, because something at home they came from trauma at home. They came from a broken sense of home, a family connection, and they weren't wired correctly in their social education. So, and I don't think it's the job of martial arts organizations and teachers to correct that. Because from my own aspect, having been one for many years and owned a school, it was not my job to raise other people's kids. I have my own kids.
Correct.
So
Right. That's why, even with the parents here, we tell them, look, we're here to support you as a parent.
mhm.
We're going to give them guide. We're going to teach them, and we're going to say a few things. We're going to have these times where we're going to try to help with their, understand the martial arts,
Mhm.
and that's supposed to bleed back home,
Mhm.
because what we learn is not supposed to be just in the dojo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I learned in a park. Okay, well, I've done this, and everything I've learned is in the park. I can't take it anywhere else. No, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
All right. What we learn is what we learn, and what we teach, and what we have to teach. But right, we're not supposed to teach the kids how to freaking tie their shoes. We're not supposed
No.
to teach the kids how right from wrong. Right. We could enforce these aspects. We can help develop ethical ways and high moral character. But it's the parents that has to be the first and foremost um, instructor, teacher, and guide to that.
Mhm. So
We support it, right?
So, for transparency's sake, I have a strong sense of self because I have my wife, my children, my extended family here, my friends, my tribal personal group. However, having a disconnect from my Filipino community, my Philam community, I have sought refuge in the Balintawak community, specifically the Pacific Northwest Seattle-based community, because I've been showing up there for 2 years now. I've been engaged and involved in their activities for so long, and they've brought me in and treat me like I'm one of their own. So I'm like extended. But I understand that what connects us initially is the thing that we do, Balintawaka Eskrima by way of GM Bobby. Now, I've built and
Right.
developed personal relationships outside of that, but as an organization, I participate in Balintawak. And I have that buy-in that so long as I participate in Balintawak and faithful to like the ethos and those social contracts, that the organization will allow me to be there. But I also understand that my buy-in is intrinsic to my buy-in, my loyalty is intrinsic to my own um, value system. If I violate
Yeah,
my
where
own
you place
value
the value.
system, exactly where I place the
Yeah.
value. So, and a
Yeah.
lot of
You and I are
but
not much different.
yeah, but again, for transparency's sake, yeah, I felt disconnected from the larger FMA Philam community. So I sought out a community because my community here pretty much doesn't exist anymore, especially after I shut the gym down. But
Yeah.
what I don't need it to be is a replacement for the things that I lost. Because, like a lot of veterans, when you come out of the military, you're trying to replace that community, that brotherhood, that tribe, that bond. And I did the same thing, and I did that with the gym. What's different now is because I've done a lot of work for myself and understanding myself and built that strong bond with my actual family, that there is that understanding of a base of what is actually me and what actually matters. And the things outside of that, I understand that there is a boundary of what I actually provide, what I actually buy into, and the same for that organization and that group and that community. I don't conflate, I don't misunderstand my relationship involvement, my relationship expectations. But that took me a long time to figure that out. And I know a lot of people are in that same boat.
Yeah. Hey, I was, and I know I said it before. Again, thank you for your services, sir. But
Yeah.
and I know it's not easy for those who served, like you said, trying to replace that community, especially if they themselves have had to leave due to injury
Mm-hmm.
or again, because there's always the trauma we've talked about. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, like I have this big disconnect to the Filipino community here, which is funny because they all know my family, and I
Hmm.
meet them, but I'm not really a part of them, right?
Yeah.
I've but I've had in my previous job that I had, I've had some of the people come in. And I meet other Filipinos coming in because that's mainly my job as a customer service aspect. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh, and like I don't speak Tagalog, right?
So do I.
But they're like, like, oh, do you even eat Filipino food? Yeah, I have a Filipino mother. Of course, I eat Filipino food.
My wife cooks the Filipino
Right,
food. My wife's the nurse. And she's a white lady.
right. But it's like, oh, I go to the Philippines every year since I'm almost every year since 1982. I go to here, I go to that, and then now I teach I trained and teach Filipino martial arts. So
Yeah.
I go to. It's like they're like, wow, you're more Filipino than my son who moved here when he was 12. I'm like, all right, but the my connection to the Filipino community is more aligned with my Filipino martial arts and within Pekiti than
Same. Same.
than my own backyard. And I grew up with a lot of these people too. You know, being one of the handful of Filipinos that only spoke English and didn't speak any other thing, right? And also growing up on the shorter side of the spectrum, it's like, you know what I mean? So it's all good. You
Yeah.
do you. I'm gonna do me. I'm gonna go over here. You
Yeah.
know, I don't need to be problematic. I got my own shit to deal with. It's my language. I got to deal with my own stuff. So I'm gonna make things happen for me.
Yeah.
That's one thing my parents always taught me. It's like, you make things happen for you. Don't, no one else controls that but you,
Hmm.
you know? And
That's
that's
that
one
agency
of the
part.
best things my parents, yeah. And I'm very grateful for my parents for teaching me that, but, and again, the values that were taught at home. My, my father was one of three. My mother's one of seven,
Hmm.
you know? I mean, so we know culture, and I see all sides of my families on the other side, and my cousins and their children, this and that. I totally get it. It's like I understand. So I got lucky because there's only my brother and myself, and we received the full guidance and training because it was just the two of us, and
Yeah.
we had both of our parents.
Yep.
You know, obviously not everybody is as lucky, but that again, education, seeking knowledge, constant improvement,
Hmm.
improving one station in life. These are things that we should seek out.
Hmm.
And again, and going back to being an instructor and teacher, this is something that should be imparted to every student in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
AKA Kaizen. If we want to get all martial arty, Kaizen.
Hmm.
Right? To seek continuous improvement. Nothing wrong with that.
No, there isn't. It's just, again, people are messy and people want to belong to stuff. And when they have an unhealthy expectation due to an unhealthy trauma based upbringing, it creates these divisions and creates inherently
Yeah.
politics. But this is the part that I try to promote and try to engender because I legitimately believe this. We do these things, we do these podcasts, we join these forums, we participate in this thing that we call the Filipino martial arts, aside from like a cultural connection, because by blood, Filipino, inherently, yes, we do that. But for all of us that's within the FMA community, we participate in all this stuff because we love this stuff. So that alone should be enough to unify. And that is my charter, my expression, and my I hate to say challenge, but that's the thing that I try to express outward is like, guys and gals, we love this thing. So let's unify underneath the fact that we love this thing. And it doesn't matter
Yeah.
who your martial arts daddy was and who the system is. We all love FMA. So why not just
Yeah.
rely on that? Because that should be enough. Because unless
Well,
you're
like I
willing
said,
to, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like we said before, part of loyalty is love. You got, like you said, we love this so much. That's why we're loyal to it. We are faithful to what we got.
Yeah.
Hey Renee, how are you doing, sir?
What's up, Renee?
You know, so we are. I apologize if you hear some screaming children.
Yeah, no worries.
Class is starting, but it's been 5 to 7 times.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. I drop all the Tagalog terms because I just don't know them. So
Yeah, I'm trying to incorporate more of it, but I've been trying. I've been telling people like, okay, I'm trying to utilize information. I'm trying to get, because again, when GP first taught, he didn't teach people to count in Tagalog or whatever. He did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He teaches in English
yeah,
instead of the time, right? You know, I'm my teacher taught me, but he wasn't Filipino.
yeah, and that's
So,
fine.
it is what it is. Okay, then what's the name of this? As long as we knew certain names like Sinawali,
Yeah.
Etiquette, Hubud, you know, we figured things out. Sombrada, we figured things out.
Well, I mean, this
Oh,
is a
I'm
great
learning more
place.
Japanese now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a great place for us to end because I mean, coming up almost on 2 hours. So, I in short, people are messy, and people need to understand their actual relationship to a thing, and they understand the social contracts to a thing. And again, it's just like your romantic ideas with another individual. They may not be into you as much as you are into them. When it comes to a system, the system doesn't care because the system doesn't have emotional connection. So again, people are messy, and it's okay to have your personal beliefs. It's okay to have your opinions. It's okay to like the things that you like. I don't know how you say rubber chicken in Tagalog. I need to look that up. I don't know. I can't say peck peck because that's a problem. Yeah. But anyways, but again, people are messy. People are beautiful. People are messy. FMA is beautiful. People make it messy. But I think just the love of what we do is enough. So, do you have anything else you want to promote out as we come to a close?
I agree with you, and people are messy, and we should do our best to, again, stick to high moral character,
Hmm.
and and not seek to be divisive and pit one group or one system or one art or one schooling of thought versus another. That's the
Hmm.
most important thing. Like martial arts, people have different approach to something than I do, and try to seek to understand why they do, learn from it, and see, where there's a connect and disconnect, and see how, if you take what you know and what you learn from them, and maybe you could take it further. And that's what I look at. Right?
Yeah.
And Coach, thank you again, sir. We appreciate you coming through.
Yeah.
And in regard to things, we have some stuff coming up in the new year, so please keep a lookout. Please, you know, like and subscribe to at Nomad KACF on Facebook and Instagram, and of course YouTube here. And check us out on www.nomadkacf.com, combat Kali and Combat Fitness. And we have stuff coming up in each year, so it's gonna be fantastic. We're promoting a lot of stuff and doing a lot of stuff with as many different masters and instructors in the arts, and as much as possible, and just trying to do what's right for the community. You know,
Awesome. Well, Brother Royce, I appreciate you. Appreciate your time and your being a conduit, being a leader in our community of positivity and building that connection, that tribe that's apolitical, that loves the differences, but also loves the commonalities. Because ultimately, as Filipino martial artists, this is the thing that binds us together. This is the thing that loves us or that we love. So why not
I
share it?
appreciate it, sir.
Yeah.
I
So
appreciate it. And to my fellow Filipino martial artists out there, whether you're Filipino or not, let's not be traditional Filipino and have that crab mentality of pulling each other down. We should be beyond that. We should be well beyond that. All right. We should stop with that. And if you still have a feeling about some people, don't dislike whatever, We just keep it to ourselves.
Yeah,
Right?
it's totally possible.
Don't have anything bad, right? Don't have anything good to say. Don't say anything at all, right? And let the students see for themselves why you're the one.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what matters. You know, no need to bring other people down to push yourself up, to raise yourself up, right? So
Now,
that's
last
my
closing thought about the crab pot mentality, because I've had to relook at this sometimes here in the past. The crab pot, to get out of the crab pot, they have to climb on other crabs. Sometimes, and I'm not saying the crab actually does this, but for us, sometimes as leaders, we will sacrifice ourselves to allow for others to rise above. This is where I believe each generation can get better, because as a parent, I'm sacrificing myself in the long run so my children can be better for the next generation. Hopefully that carries down the line. So
yeah, but that's not crab.
yeah.
That's not crab mentality. That's
No, that's
right?
how we get out of the crab pot. That's how we get out
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, yes. Because you know, it's like it's one thing to pull other people down, but like I said, like we're if we pride ourselves on being such an amazing, excellent, superb, whatever high muckety muck, then every single student we've ever had would never leave and would constantly grow and want to promote themselves and your art and be above first floor that way. Yeah. You know, our students should be. We should be happy that they're rising above us.
Yep, I agree.
Plain and simple. Period. And if you put yourself in a position where your students will never rise above you, that you can never be touched in sparring because of the way you train your student, and then you chide them, but you still don't teach them what they need to do or whatever the situation may be. No.
Yeah.
I get it by my students. Oh, you can't be a high monkey. No. But if you teach them right, they're going to be good enough to do that.
Yeah.
I'm proud. If you could, I want my students to hit me.
Yeah, they should be better.
I want them to
They
do
should
their
be better
best.
than you. They should be better than you,
because
that
there's going to be reciprocation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the game. That's part of it. That's part of life. There has to be that.
Yep.
That's how I feel. Like.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Enjoy the class there as they've got engaged. So yeah.
Yes. We'll take care again. Great talking again. And everybody, sorry for the noise, but thank you for having me.
All right, bye. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye. You got it, brother.
All right, bye. Well, everybody, thanks for hanging out. This is nearly 2 hours of us talk about how to be positive in politics. I mean, it's totally possible to have politics, but be positive about it. It's totally possible to be engaged in stuff and not be politically toxic. So stuff coming up for me. The Fight House Talks has got a couple of things coming up. I don't have banners for that, but for here, with 2 FMA Nerds, I got Justin Fernando coming on next week. And yeah, that should be a great time. We're still trying to figure out a topic, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to talk about FMA stuff, FMA nerdy stuff, and it'll be a great time. So yeah, look for that. In the meantime, everybody, thank you. Happy training. And if I don't see you next time here in the next couple of days, happy Thanksgiving or happy Indigenous Day, whatever you're going to celebrate, eating turkey and arguing with your family, but don't argue with your family. Overall, thanks everybody. Have a good day.